Tim Hortons is a name that means a great deal in Canada. It is much more than just a place to buy coffee and donuts. For many Canadians, it is a daily ritual. It is a comforting presence in their towns and cities. The warmth of a Tim Hortons cup is, for some, like the warmth of the nation itself. However, when Tim Hortons tried to expand into the United States, the story changed. The success it enjoyed in Canada did not simply cross the border. Instead, its journey south was marked by confusion and disappointment. The journey of Tim Hortons into the U.S. offers many insights into the complexities of international expansion. The story of Tim Hortons begins with a man named Tim Horton. He was not just a businessman, he was a famous hockey player. He played in the National Hockey League for many years. He was a defenseman, known for his strength and reliability on the ice. His name was respected by Canadians, especially hockey fans. This connection to a national sport gave the brand an initial layer of appeal in its home country. The first Tim Hortons donut shop opened in 1964. It was located in Hamilton, Ontario. The original vision was quite simple. It was a place to get fresh coffee and donuts. The focus was on quality and a welcoming atmosphere. The significant growth of Tim Hortons came after Tim Horton partnered with Ron Joyce in 1967. Joyce was a former police officer with a keen business sense. While Horton provided the famous name and the initial concept, Joyce provided the entrepreneurial drive. He understood franchising. He pushed for expansion. Together, they built Tim Hortons into a Canadian powerhouse. Timmy's, as it is affectionately known, became deeply embedded in Canadian culture. For many, stopping at Tim Hortons became a cherished part of their daily routine, a small but significant piece of their Canadian identity. With tremendous success in Canada, Tim Hortons looked south. The U.S. represented a vast, untapped market. The potential for growth seemed enormous. Leaders believed the Canadian formula could work in the U.S. fueled by domestic dominance. Confidence was high. They began in U.S. border towns like Buffalo. Many residents were already familiar with the brand. Initial stores performed reasonably well. Early successes suggested readiness for expansion. The strategy was a direct transfer of the Canadian model. The menu and store design were similar. Marketing echoed Canadian messages. Little adaptation was initially considered. Moving deeper into the U.S., challenges mounted. Winning in America proved tougher than expected. One of the most critical factors in retail success is location. Unfortunately, Tim Hortons often stumbled in this crucial area in its U.S. expansion. Many of its American outlets were situated in less than ideal spots. They were not always easy to find or convenient to access. This put them at an immediate disadvantage against competitors with prime real estate. You might find a Tim Hortons tucked away in a quiet corner of a strip mall, or it might be located on a side street with little passing traffic. These were not the high-visibility, high-traffic locations that coffee chains usually depend on. In the U.S., consumers are accustomed to coffee shops being on prominent corners. They expect them along their daily commute routes. Tim Hortons often failed to secure these strategic positions, making casual discovery unlikely. Why did the company make these location choices? Perhaps it was an attempt to save on real estate costs. Prime locations are expensive, or maybe it was a misjudgment of American consumer behavior. Americans, particularly in suburban areas, rely heavily on cars. They value convenience highly. Tim Hortons did not always give them that strong reason. In Canada, the identity of Tim Hortons was crystal clear. It was Canada's coffee shop. It was intertwined with national pride and everyday life. The brand resonated because it reflected and reinforced Canadian values and experiences. This strong, unambiguous identity was a cornerstone of its success. When Tim Hortons crossed into the United States, this powerful identity largely evaporated. For most Americans, the brand had no prior meaning. The Canadian heritage, the connection to hockey legend Tim Horton, did not carry the same weight. It became just another option in a crowded field. Without its Canadian cultural halo, Tim Hortons had to define itself anew for the American consumer. This proved to be a difficult task. Was Tim Hortons a coffee specialist like Starbucks? Was it a donut shop like Dunkin' Donuts or Krispy Kreme? The messaging often felt muddled. American consumers were not entirely sure what Tim Hortons was supposed to be. This lack of a clear, compelling brand proposition made it hard to attract a loyal following. The American coffee market that Tim Hortons entered was not just competitive, it was dominated by established giants. Starbucks had already cultivated a massive following with its premium coffee experience. It had stores on seemingly every desirable corner. On the other end, Dunkin', formerly Dunkin' Donuts, held a strong position, especially on the East Coast, known for its coffee and donuts, and its appeal to the everyday worker. These were formidable opponents. It wasn't just these two. McDonald's had successfully launched its McCafé line. It offered coffee and specialty drinks at very competitive prices. And McDonald's had an unparalleled network of locations, making it incredibly convenient. Other national and regional chains also had their loyal customer bases. From Panera Bread to local independent coffee houses, Americans had a plethora of choices for their daily caffeine fix. The market was saturated. Tim Hortons needed a very strong, unique selling proposition to persuade American consumers to switch their habits. It needed to offer something distinctly better or different. However, its offerings were often perceived as too similar to what was already available. The coffee was seen as comparable to Dunkin's or McDonald's, but often without the same level of convenience or brand recognition in the local U.S. context. The donuts were good, but not always seen as superior. In essence, Tim Hortons struggled to carve out a unique niche. In 2014, a significant event occurred in the Tim Hortons story. The company was acquired by Restaurant Brands International, or RBI. RBI is a global fast food giant. It also owns Burger King and Popeye's Louisiana Kitchen. This merger created one of the world's largest quick-service restaurant companies. Hopes were high that RBI's scale and expertise could invigorate Tim Hortons, especially its U.S. operations. But the reality was more complex. RBI has a well-known business model. It often focuses on aggressive cost-cutting and maximizing franchisee profits through operational efficiencies. While this approach can be effective in some contexts, it created friction within the Tim Hortons system. Many Canadian franchisees, accustomed to a different way of doing business, felt squeezed by the new ownership. Concerns began to surface about the potential impact on product quality and customer experience. Soon, reports and customer complaints started to emerge. Some loyal patrons claimed the coffee didn't taste the same. There were whispers of changes to the ingredients used in some of the baked goods. While RBI often denied cutting corners on quality, the perception among some consumers was that standards had slipped. The struggles of Tim Hortons in the United States offer valuable lessons for any company considering international expansion. Perhaps the most crucial lesson is that cultural context is paramount. What makes a brand beloved in its home country does not automatically translate to another, even one that seems culturally similar. A deep understanding of local tastes, habits, and values is absolutely essential. Assumptions can be very costly. Another key takeaway concerns brand identity. A strong brand identity is a powerful asset, but it may need to be carefully adapted, not just copied, when entering a new market. Tim Hortons' Canadian identity was its strength at home. In the US, it needed to forge a new, relevant identity that resonated with American consumers. It struggled to articulate a clear answer to the question, why should an American choose Tim Hortons? Underestimating the intensity of local competition is also a common pitfall. The US coffee and fast food market is one of the most competitive in the world. New entrants need a truly compelling, unique selling proposition. Despite numerous store closures, Tim Hortons hasn't abandoned its American ambitions. Some locations continue to operate, especially in areas with Canadian ties. This suggests the brand can work in the US with a refined approach. A revised strategy focusing on specific regions is essential. Menu adaptation to American tastes is crucial. Building brand awareness will be a slow process. Learning from past mistakes is key. Officials have acknowledged previous missteps. They are committed to investing in the brand. The proof will be in the execution.